Hi everyone, my name is Shruti and I'm a solutions architect at Databricks. Today I'm going to be talking about and demoing one of our services, AI BI Genie. In today's day and age, data is an integral part of almost every company out there. Enterprises want to democratize data and AI for all of their employees, no matter if in a technical or non-technical role. That's where Genie comes in. Genie is a self-service question and answers tool that lets users ask questions about their data in plain text natural language. It then uses AI and data intelligence to understand the question and convert it into a SQL query that it then runs on tables it has access to. Genie will then take the results, let the user know the results, and easily visualize the results in graph format so the user can see trends in their data. And this is all without needing to know a word of SQL. Genie also has fully governed interactions since it adheres to your policies established in Unity Catalog, like the rest of our Databricks services do. So how does Genie get accurate answers to your questions? Firstly, the intelligence built in with Genie makes it so Genie can form a baseline understanding of your data through aspects such as table schemas, which includes column headers, comments you've added to your table, headers, things like that, since it can derive and it can understand what your data is about looking at things like this. Also looking at SQL queries, existing dashboards, and so on. But on top of this, you can actually customize your Genie room so that it understands more about your use case and your data. One way to do this is by adding instructions, which is natural language. You can add rules or just information about your data or expected questions, such as, for example, if you have data with abbreviations, maybe you want to let Genie know what the abbreviations stand for. So if someone asks a question without using the abbreviation, Genie will be able to translate it and knows what they're talking about. If you have more complex queries that you're noticing Genie might not be getting the answer to certain questions that are common, you can actually take SQL queries, maybe get a technical resource on your company to write the SQL query for certain commonly asked questions and input that into Genie for the question. This way, not only does Genie know how to answer that question, but it can learn from your SQL query for future questions and what you need Genie to do when certain, like similar questions are asked. And finally, Genie is good at asking users for real-time feedback. So if at any point Genie is unsure to answer a question or doesn't understand what exactly the user is looking for, it will actually prompt another question before giving an answer. And it uses that to train itself and get better answers for our users. So let's dive into our Genie demo. So this is my Databricks console. If you scroll down to the SQL section, you can find Genie here. I've created a Genie room and demo using a Crunchbase dataset, which has information that lets us derive insights such as startup funding trends, acquisitions, investor activity, and so on. If we scroll down to this icon right here, we could see the data that I'm feeding into my Genie room. So I have 5 different tables from the Crunchbase dataset that I'm using today. Before we get into asking questions of our Genie room, let's go ahead and see how you create a new Genie room. So in this tab, I went to Genie, I hit create new, and it got me here. So the first thing you put in is a title, such as Genie demo. Here you can put in a description of the Genie room you're trying to create. This is my description here. This is so when people come to your Genie room, they have a good idea of what it's about And once you know what the data set's about, you can have a better idea of what questions you want to ask it. Then you got to put in your default warehouse that is the compute that's actually going to run the queries in your Genie room when questions are asked. Tables. This is the tables you can pull from, your Genie room has access to and can pull from. Of course, user access is also accounted for in these things, where your user also needs to have access to the data in the Genie room. But this is more for what tables does your Genie room have access to. This is an option that lets you enable your users to upload files when asking questions to Genie as well. So if you click that, it'll ask you for a catalog and schema on where you want that saved. And finally, you can input sample questions, which are presented in the new chat window. So when people come to your Genie room, they have options and ideas of questions they can ask off the bat to just get their mind flowing about what are insights we can get from your Genie room. So once you do all that, you hit save, and it'll create your Genie room and bring you to something like this, which is my created Genie room. So first, before we actually go into asking questions, let's see these different tabs. The first one is chats. So Genie does remember the different times you've chatted with it. So if you want to have a continuous conversation and you want to continue asking about questions you asked before, you can select a previous chat and you can continue doing that. This is the instructions we talked about earlier in the slides, where you can add instructions such as only show me the top 10 results for every query. You can add, I'm not going to add any instructions today, but that is an example. If you have abbreviations like country code, you can say that, hey, the country code is stored in 2 letters. Just any information you think it would be valuable for Genie to know, or if you notice that, hey, it's just not getting this, it doesn't know what this field means, you can add it in the instructions to get better results. Here is where if you want to add sample queries, you can do that, where you can add queries that Genie can learn from. I'm not going to do that right now, but also SQL functions. You can add SQL functions as well from your catalog. We looked at data. History. Okay, so history is where you can look at the different questions you've asked. If you have access, if the user has access, they can rate how Genie did. And you can really use this to monitor how are things going and also sort different results in the log to see any insights you want to of how your Genie queries are going. This is benchmarks. I haven't run anything, but you can add a benchmark to run an evaluation. So if you add benchmark, this is like you can add a question, and if you do want to add a SQL answer to just see if it gets near that question, you can do that. This is more for monitoring, benchmarking, and just if you want to change any of your settings, you could do that on the last tab. So let's go ahead and ask our Genie room a question finally. I have some here. Let's go with which year saw the highest investment activity and see how it responds. There we go. So this report shows the total investment amounts raised by companies summarized by year. The results highlighted the top 10 years with the highest total investments. So the top 10 is because I had it in my instructions and it did come through since I did save it. So that's great. It shows me the top 10 years and it is showing me the trend. Let me go ahead and put that as a line graph. And there we go. So it shows how you could do multiple visualizations, ask questions, you know, how you can make Genie better. So that is an overview of Genie. I hope you enjoyed and let us know if you have any questions.